All right, on a 3, on a 2, on a 1. Okay, welcome everybody to episode number 10 of the Battlefield show. We made it to double digits, everybody. I can't believe it. It's gotten to that time of year where a lot of things changing here in Battlefield coming up, so I brought on a fantastic guest, a passionate guest, a longtime Battlefield player, Dazz. Welcome to the Battlefield show. How you doing?
Doing good. It's good to be here, man. Hello, everybody in chat. Good to be
Hello,
here.
chat. How's it going? I know it's Daz, right? It's Daz. We've been following Daz for years now, and I finally get to talk to him on this new show that I've developed recently. So it's really good to have you on here. Daz is a beloved sniper extraordinaire, usually at the top of the leaderboards. A Twitch partner streamer. He's got a really good YouTube channel that I'm portraying here on my left side, I guess you would say. And this is one of his crazy kill streaks, 92 headshots or something. This is on the new Pacific match. It was pretty insane to watch. I got that on loop, and there's other videos on there, informative ones that help with either aim control or talk about new things like the TTK perhaps. So we'll be talking about all that coming up soon. You're also a new member of SOAR. Am I correct about that?
Yes,
What is
that is
SOAR?
correct. Soar Gaming is a Call of Duty montage team that was established in 2012.
Okay.
And well, now I had obviously yes, I have left Ascent. I left probably about half a year ago now, maybe a little longer. And I left because I just was looking to expand my bridges. I did not feel I was the leader that it needed at the time. It was a decision that I had been sitting on for a really long time, even though I started the team. And I didn't actually intend to join SOAR. It just kind of happened where I knew a lot of mutual people there,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a lot of other offers from a lot of other orgs. But my basis comes from montages, and it just made sense if that was my starting point that I should continue with that.
And it seems like SOAR is branching out into newer games other than just Call of Duty. I see a huge Destiny team on there, and
Yeah,
geez, and your name's just brand new on there. You don't have a background or anything like all the others. What's up with that? They didn't hook you up
yeah.
yet?
Well, I have a few uploads up there. I've been
Okay,
venturing quite a bit out with their Apex stuff. I have two uploads
right.
from Apex where we did some voiceover. I got a montage up there for Battlefield. And obviously I'm new on their roster, so obviously it's going to
Yeah.
take some time until I get more exposure on the channel. And yeah, I think they're expanding quite a bit. Soar's trying to become bigger and more of a bigger multi organizational team. I think they have what it takes
Mm-hmm.
to do it. And well, I'm there along for the ride and I don't have to lead essentially, and I can focus on my content creation.
Right. And Ascend, I mean, you were pretty much wanting to, you were the founder of Ascend, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, yeah, I remember that's how I remember looking you up. It's always Ascend Daz, Mr. Sniper. I mean, one of the best in the world. And you were building up a team, a large team, right before Battlefield 5 was coming into existence and before the pre-alpha and all that. Was there a major goal at hand with Ascend? Did you want something to happen? Well,
There wasn't
other than
necessarily. It
just
was something that
montage.
we started in Battlefield One. That's
Mm-hmm.
our biggest peak was during Battlefield One. Ascend. The goal was back in the day. There was a lot of negativity because of Hardline, and the Battlefield community was in shambles, especially in terms of montages. There was Nova
Okay.
Gaming and there was Terra Uncut. I knew everybody in Terra Uncut, and I was a leader. I wasn't an owner of Nova back in the day, but a lot of stuff was being run poorly. A lot of players were taken advantage of, and so we decided to merge Nova and Terra Uncut and just kind of squash the beef. Because unfortunately, Nova
Okay.
Gaming had an owner where they were keeping all the funds, they weren't being involved, and everyone would always tell me, "Daz, you're the one pretty much running things." Like, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah," and like you're getting nothing from it. Well, I didn't ask for money when I did any of this, and I still don't. Back whenever I was running Ascent, I didn't. Same thing with Terran Cut. It was being run poorly, and people were just being mistreated. People were not accepted to rosters or teams based on talent. Sometimes it was pettiness of why they weren't accepted, and it just
Okay.
was unacceptable. So then we kind of switched over and merged, and the goal with Ascend was to again squash that beef, which we did. And I can't
Okay.
tell you how many times we had calls getting people in together who had just absolute hatred for one another, and just
Wow.
saying going forward, it's done, we're merging, we're going to do this to survive in the montage scene, because the montage scene was dying at the time. It was really really struggling, and we needed to do it because I don't know if it would have survived if we had not. At the
Mm-hmm.
time, Nova Gaming almost fell apart maybe 3 or 4 times when Hardline
Okay.
came about, and Terran Cut was struggling in terms of activity. And we said to ourselves, if we're going to make something, we have to do it now. And well, that's what the goal was of Ascend. And honestly, it achieved that goal.
Okay.
And the transparency when I set up, it was supposed to be more democratic whenever I set it up. So I succeeded in that bunch where the team is yours, the money is yours. Anything that we made, which Ascend made quite a bit of money. We worked with
Okay.
EA on a lot of projects, and I never kept a dime. It went back to the players, went back to the servers, went back to the
Oh
individual
wow.
people, and that was the success of it. Even when I left, there was a good amount of money in there. It's the teams. I don't know how they spent it. Divided between themselves, however they wanted to go about it.
Sure.
That's the goal, and Ascend did succeed. There was no failure out of that. Outside of that, we just kept growing and kept doing things. And I wanted to push the envelope more, but
Right. That's what I wanted
um,
to ask you about. Like, what were your other ideas that never hit?
the other ideas was to push something more like SOAR for content creation, to expand above
Okay.
montages. But
Right.
you can't force something into a team that is built on montages. And it wasn't a bad thing. Obviously, YouTube algorithm just craps on montages, and it doesn't work. If you post a montage and it's copywritten, you're
It
just
usually
screwed.
has
YouTube.
music. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have to buy the rights, which I do with
Mm-hmm.
most of my music now. And people don't like the music that you have to purchase the rights to because it's not the good stuff. And well,
Mm-hmm.
that's just the unfortunate situation. And it's why I felt like as a leader, I wasn't the right fit, because I didn't want to force people to do things, because that's not why I was there. And I knew the reality of what we needed to do to push Ascend to another level. And plus, this opens up opportunity for players like Neon, for Eddie, and for others who want to step up into the role to shape it in something. Because Ascend wasn't mine; it was never mine to be had. It was for the community and for the individual
Right.
players. I look back on it and I sometimes ask myself, was it a waste of time or was it not? Because honestly, there's so much time I could have put into my own YouTube channel, to my own videos, to more
Mm-hmm.
longer streams. I mean, yes, it was worth it. But obviously, you always reflect and think, what if? I mean, I had so many offers when we were merging from
Mm-hmm.
major teams like Obey to Lucky Seven, and that were at the time doing very well. And they said, we'll bring over your full roster and we'll pay you to run things. And I
Oh
said no,
wow.
because I was like, the team will never go for that. Obviously, Obey ownership has changed so much now that I don't mind saying stuff like that, because it's not even the same team that it was, because nothing ever really is the same like that. But it's fascinating. I turned down a lot of offers like that whenever they
Mm-hmm.
came to me and said, bring over every Battlefield player we'll give you a salary and we'll do it. And but
It
I,
kind of
I have a day.
seemed. It kind of seemed like that you're getting a lot of content creators coming in. I see everyone's getting labels, ascend tags all over. All of my friends. I was like, oh my god, Zariana. You remember Zariana, right?
Yeah.
She was in part of Ascend now. Prophet on Fire, Necro, Buckshot Betty, like all these people I knew while streaming. I was like, whoa, something big is happening with Ascend right now. There's a lot of new content coming out regarding Battlefield, and I was really excited. But it never came to fruition. Like things got either delayed or people were compiling videos and edits for a long time. I'm like, where is this going somewhere? Because I've been waiting. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, there looks like there's some
Yeah.
big
And
things coming. You know?
there was an easy answer for that. Excuse me. There's an easy answer for that. Essentially, obviously nobody was paid in Ascend. I wasn't paid to run it, and it
Gotcha.
goes into the hands of the editors and players. I
Right.
think that what hurt Ascend most was the fact there was no community servers or RSP to create cinematics to do the things we wanted to do. I know I've expressed to EA and Dice the importance of just essentially like why things exist the way they do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And essentially, we needed RSP. We needed community service so we can get editors in there to create these edits, create the montages, create the moments. But without it, I mean, everything was on hold, everything was on delayed. All the projects we had
Right.
planned just they can't happen. And a lot of the streamers and everybody that was picked up, there was an understanding that obviously there needs to be a bit of work for everyone for this to really take off.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it goes back to me necessarily being the bad guy saying we need to do this, we need to do this. But if people don't have the drive and the motivation to do it, I can't force it. I can't force people to go live. I can't force people to make clips. I can't force people to edit when there's no money, and the money goes back into the overall team. Because
Exactly.
editors weren't being compensated. They were if it was a big project, but it goes back to the servers we want to run, the other initiatives or things that we need to do, you know. Eddie.
Eddie
Oh
had
yeah,
something.
Eddie,
Yeah, Eddie.
owner of Ascend. The rest of the funds that were made from EA sponsors were spent on editors to make certain videos. Exactly. So when we had big
Ah.
projects like the Team
Huh.
Tosh for Phase, when we
Mm-hmm.
brought in a Phase editor,
Oh,
'cause
wow.
our goal was to bring exposure for Battlefield. Granted, some people didn't like the fact like, oh, why don't you get a Ascend editor and pay them? Well, the idea was we needed exposure for the team. We needed
Right.
exposure for the community. We needed to inspire others. I mean, the unfortunate part is that even a competitor to Ascend, there was no competitors. That others needed to be inspired to work just as hard, but nobody was rising to that occasion. You know, it's the unfortunate reality. It all really staples to the problem that we have in Battlefield today. We don't have RSP. We don't have
Well,
community run
yeah,
servers.
we're definitely gonna talk about
Um,
that.
and so, because of that, it did kill off a lot of the momentum of what we were trying to build. And, well, I mean, you know, EA and Dice make decisions, and it's their decision. That's why things died and why things got
Well,
hurt.
at
You
the
know?
end of BF1's life cycle, there was, well, close to the end, there was RSP. It was there, right? And
Yeah.
that's why I thought it was going to go somewhere, because now you guys have the tools. They were doing, cinematic tools and all that stuff were getting put in place in the whole RSP section. And I thought that's when it was like, okay, now this is when Ascend is going to start really growing now.
And it was
Um,
honestly we paid for servers within Battlefield One, and that made it
yeah,
for our content creators much easier. You know, that's why Battlefield One was doing as well as it did, and why we were able to create the content that we were able to back then, because we had the tools to do so. If the
hmm
tools don't exist, then obviously there needs to be everyone just starts to do their own thing. You know, that's why I started to do my own thing. You have to
right.
adapt to what you're provided, right? You either adapt or you die, which is what came down to the reality of like we had plans. A lot of people joined Ascend. The plan was, well, guys, we have to adapt, and you know, individuals either will or they won't. And I made my selfish decision to adapt the way I did when I did, because I, you know, saw the writing on the wall of what I
hmm
wanted to do, what I wanted to achieve. And some people can't adapt. It's just the unfortunate part, you know?
Yeah, I see you, Eddie. No, yeah, that's exactly what I thought it would be, for sure. But I never saw anything like unofficial channels, But it kind of
And
seems you guys wanted,
we had two
yeah,
videos out for it. But you
yeah,
know, you want to add the nice cinematic, something that looks like it was released by Dice and EA, which
right.
we were
hmm
paid at one point to do a video. There was one with Alan Walker where we were compensated highly
Oh,
for it,
cool.
and we made a montage and it got shared on the channels and it did really well. And well, that was a team, you know. We put in the work. I stayed up putting the hours, organizing it, making sure it happened. We had Philly involved, Eddie involved, and we got everyone's clips organized. And that is what should have been with the streamers. It just didn't, you know, it just didn't happen because we don't have the tools. You know, we don't have the tools. What can we do? You
Gotcha.
know.
So now you move on to Soar, and again, another montage. What are your goals with Soar? I know you touched upon that a little bit, but can you go into a little more depth with that? Because I'm genuinely curious about your future with
Honestly, when I
Soar.
left Ascend, I didn't have a plan. My focus is to continue to
hmm
put out content, to stream more, to put more into my channel, which is why I have Eddie working with me so much on my personal channel now.
Yeah, it's
Soar,
looking real good.
I don't have any intention, even when I was in a part of Ascend or whenever I was in Nova Gaming. I never have the intention to lead.
Mm.
Just stuff happens. I usually see something and I want it, and then all of a sudden I get involved and thrown into a leadership role that I never really asked for. It just kind of happens,
Oh.
you know. Like even currently with Soar, there's talk with it's unofficial and it's not something that's 100% going to happen,
Mm.
but where I may end up leading their content creators within Apex. Do I play Apex? Yes, I do it on the side, but it's not my main game. It's not why Source signed me. They signed me to do Battlefield, but obviously I have a skill set to organize things. I can play. I can get people involved, and that side of me might be utilized for Apex because there's been discussions. So nothing's set in stone for that.
Okay.
But like I've played Apex at a high level. I've talked with a lot of their Apex roster, and things vibe and they work. And it doesn't mean I'm gonna start uploading and streaming Apex. I do it on my spare time. I play
Right,
ranked. I
right. Yeah,
love playing.
I talked to Mr. Kaiser yesterday. You play with him a lot, and I know you guys are
Yeah.
doing Predator ranking, matchmaking pretty much at that point with Nini as well, right?
Yeah, and we're in there, and
You
it's a
guys
lot
are
of fun.
wrecking. Yeah, that's good. It's fun
It's
to
taught
watch.
me a lot because when you and this is the thing, when you're forced into a setting where you're against the best of the best, and the unfortunate part or the good thing about ranked, and it's also the worst part, is that when you're in the Predator lobbies, who are you going to play against? The pros. That's it. There is nobody else besides TSM, Rogue, any pro team, Sentinels. They're all there because those are the only ones
Yep.
that play at the top. So that's all the only people you're going to face against. And you either improve to play on their level or you don't. And I think I can play on their level. I definitely could spend a lot more time on it, but my main games are Battlefield and Apex. That's what I put time into. And luckily Apex is an EA game. Thank God. Otherwise, I'm sure EA wouldn't be, obviously I do stuff on the side with them. It's not like I'm contracted to play Battlefield. If I hated Battlefield, I'd stop playing it, honestly.
Any
Luckily, I come
yeah,
home and I still want to play it, so that's a blessing.
right. And with the new content out, the Pacific update, it seems like you're enjoying the new Type 99 as we're watching a montage here of you
Yeah,
destroying people with it. Does it
it's
feel good?
good.
It's good, huh?
It's definitely a step in the right direction. There's so many
Yeah.
things I would personally change with the game. We all talk, excuse me, we all talk about it, but I'm not a developer. I can sit there and jokingly armchair it as much as possible. At the end of the day, it's their game, and
Right.
I don't even think they know what their vision is, and we'll see what they end up doing in a year or so. And then once they prep for the next Battlefield, I think obviously Dice is probably overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
because of Battlefront 2, its whole fiasco, obviously that ran into that game. Because then Battlefield probably got rushed out the door, which is kind of obvious at this point. But if they put the work in, Battlefield 5 could be fantastic. But then the next
Yeah,
game obviously needs the love and
they got some
attention.
more time now. They got more time to do such a thing. Do you think they're gonna put a lot of effort into this game, or
I
I mean,
mean,
with
they
those?
have to, otherwise the franchise is gonna, fall into shambles, right? I mean, it's either do or don't. There's no try, essentially. I'm
Well, it
sure they have a
looks.
lot of people invested into like the stock. I'm hoping it does well. So hopefully they do well.
Yeah. Well, I don't want the franchise to die, and right now it looks like they want to implement some drastic changes with this 5.2 patch. There are some great changes in there that I like. There's some good spotting changes that are pretty good, like to know if you are spotted. I remember there was a Jack Frags video that here, man, I could watch with you here. This is
I
really
remember his
old, a
video on
long
that.
time ago. You remember this one back in
I remember
2015?
because I
Where
Almost as
still
he
far
talk
as you're
about it. I
concerned.
remember
yeah, he
that
talks
video.
about specific things on the mini map, like an outline triangle or anything like that, when it involves getting spotted. And now it looks like they're adding that finally to Battlefield 5. Do you think that's a good thing, or?
I mean, this was my feedback in Battlefield 1, and it's the same for Battlefield 5. Is that RNG is incredibly frustrating. No matter
Mm-hmm.
what game you play and what you do, when you die to something randomly and you can't end the fight and ask yourself why this happened, a pro player and a casual are both going to get frustrated. Now, how much information is too much? Well, then that's where you start to balance something, right? Like an example, in Battlefield 1, when you died randomly to mortars, it's incredibly frustrating. So how do you counteract that? It's the same thing with like Gears of War. A
Mm-hmm.
mortar flies up in the air. Either A, you know that it's coming because there's a red square or something on the ground that tells you it's about to hit. You're able to shoot the mortar out of the sky, or the person who shot the mortar gets spotted whenever they're in the gadget, so you know something's going to happen. That's the competitive end to where somebody can anticipate that something's going to happen, so then they can react to it and ask themselves, can I beat this mechanic through skill?
Mm-hmm.
And any
It's good
player
information. It's great
in
information.
chat will agree, and nobody can really disagree, is that anything that's competitive, if you have the answer to something and you know how to counteract it, then boom, you're golden. But if you can't, it's just frustrating, even to a casual player. The current planes where you have the fire drop, the issue that Battlefield runs into, and I see in their overall balancing, is they put things on extreme. Well, the flagger comes in and it destroys a plane in like one shot. You don't give a chance for strafe, and you don't get a chance for skill, or you don't make something difficult for them to kill you, then you can't say, wow, that
Right.
was a crazy shot. Well, they must be very talented. It's very difficult to do that, or they beat me. And of course, the counter argument was, well, then Dice looks like they have said, and I'm going based off on how they balance the current mechanics. Well, we're going to make the plane really, really strong, and the fire is going to instantly kill them. When the fire drops, you have no time to react, and even a pro player with a reaction time of 150 milliseconds
Right.
will try to run, and even as a medic will try to heal. It's unwinnable. You can't win in the situation. The only thing you can ask yourself, when the plane was flying overhead,
Mm-hmm.
could I have anticipated and guessed something was going to happen? The
In
answer most likely is
yeah.
no.
In any
But
way too, audio, maybe visuals through a mini map suggestion or anything that would help you try to counter it, right? And it looks like they want to start, um, well, basically improving on those counters as much as they can. I mean, now that you can shoot flares down, I think it's a great idea for a counter when it comes to
I said
flares.
this about the bayonet charge. I even when it was
The bayonet
implemented,
charge, yes.
and I had a developer ask me my feedback on the bayonet charge, and I said
Uh huh.
it's unrealistic. It doesn't make any sense. I said, look at Gears of War. Here's a great example of a mechanic that's one shot. Right? Somebody comes at you with a chainsaw, and one or two
Yeah.
things are going to happen. You're going to shoot them to do a certain percentage of damage, and the mechanic will stop. Okay, skill comes involved,
Right.
or they're going to beat me because the chainsaw is loud. I can anticipate it. I can counteract it. With the bayonet charge, it's loud. I can't counteract it. I would have to have. You can technically. You can try to shoot them really, really quick. But at one point, when it was first implemented, the mechanic was provided to you where they have increased health. I was like, that's unrealistic. So now I have to do more damage to them,
I couldn't believe
and
that.
and you can't counteract the mechanic. It doesn't make any sense. So logically, that's not good for a pro or casual player. I think what Dice and EA need to ask themselves, and I mean, essentially, this is what they're trying to do with their game. They want it
Right.
entry level for casuals, and they want it good for
Yes.
pros. Is that you have to balance the game where it makes sense for both players to make the counteraction. It's just a reality, you know.
And yesterday I was talking with, or a few days ago on Thursday, we were talking with Mr. Kaiser, and he brought up really good topics about skill gap and what can we do other than just the new play mechanics to make a skill gap. Yes, that's great. But what else can we add to Battlefield that it's lacking right now in skill gap other than just play mechanics or weapon
You have
balancing?
to remove the realistic approach, and this is where like I look at Dice from an
Gotcha.
outside perspective, and I look at it and I ask myself, what is this game? Is it a military sim? Is it an arcade shooter?
Hmm.
And I don't. If you went to a Dice employee, I don't even know if they have the answer to it. Some may not. And some people in the office will say, "We want a realistic experience that's extremely immersive." And then you go to another person, they'll probably say, "We want to make sure that the gunplay feels fantastic." Well, their vision, and from my perspective outside looking at it, it feels mixed because the mechanics that they keep implementing are mixed. So then there is no answer for where this game lies. And the solution to make the game more, I guess you can say, skill gap is to make the mechanics not as realistic. So then there are ways to counter. There are things that obviously people don't like the locking into an animation. They don't like the random recoil spread of a weapon that doesn't feel yes, it's anything that is realistic
Sliding.
has
Sliding.
to, whenever you start to try to add a realistic approach to something, it becomes less skill based. The unfortunate reality. If you want something realistic and you look at a map and you say, well, realistically, nobody should ever win this encounter. Well, realistically, you're never going to win that encounter. You lose out because of
Mm-hmm.
adding real life mechanics. Like if you try to create a 100% realistic war simulator, the people are always going to get frustrated because the mechanics are unwinnable. Well, that's realistic. That's just the way it is. Well, that's not fun. Realism is not fun, and that's just the unfortunate reality. I've
That's why
had
we play
conversations with
games to escape
it's
this.
I've had
So,
conversations with Pull Shark, and you know, Pull Shark
yeah.
is a vet, and you look at it, it's like, well, it's, you know, it's not fun, you know, to do that, because yeah, you try to go for immersion and realism, but when you go that approach, if you try to go armor, you try to go that realistic approach, it doesn't work because it's not balanced. And if you
Right.
try to say, well, every gun is realistic, well, if the guns are all realistic, there are two guns that are going to be the best in the battlefield, and there is no other balancing. You know, that's just.
And I think that's what they want to change now with this new weapon balancing. Did you look into a little bit of the graphs and all that of what they
I did. I
are
looked into
trying to
it.
implementing?
I see where they're going with it, but the unfortunate reality is that there's many different games within Battlefield what you're trying to balance. You have tanks, you have air, and you have infantry, and you have different size of maps and modes. So the TTK, and this is why nobody's ever going to be happy with the TTK until they finally say the type of engagement they want you to go into. And when they do that, they're going to piss off part of their player base, and they're going to make the other player base happy. They're not going to make everyone happy, unfortunately. So you have large maps, and you tell everyone that long range engagements are going to be very difficult, but all your maps are large. So, I mean, this is an answer to Dice, or I don't even know who has this answer. Somebody over there has the answers. I don't have them. But then they say, well, all those guns are now weak long range. Okay, well, then you realize that 30 or 40% of your maps are large, and all the encounters are long range. They're like, yes. Okay, great. So how do you plan on compensating for that? Well, the snipers are not going to be changed. So you're telling me that realistically, from a competitive standpoint, that snipers are going to be the best weapons in the game because they can be utilized close range and long range. Well, no. Close range weapons are going to be really, really strong. But you just said that a large portion of the maps are long range and large. So on conquest, and then putting people in those close range engagements are difficult,
Are
unrealistic, and hard to balance. Like, who has the answers for that?
are
That's
they
a whole different game.
accidentally? I feel like they're accidentally creating another long range meta. When it comes to like, I'll just use the ZH then. I can, effectively kill in 2 shots over 100 meters. This dude with the SMG who needs like 12 shots or 14 at 100 meters just
Well,
to
that's
kill me.
the SLRs are a whole other story. The SLRs are poorly balanced in the game because they're poorly designed. Why would you ever use an SLR when you have a bolt action? I put out YouTube videos talking about this. Essentially,
Right.
you want the meta to be headshots because you make the headshot size larger in Battlefield 5, right? That would be correct. Am I assuming, right? You want
Like,
people to headshot?
yeah, I mean the the multipliers are ridiculous in this game.
So, but an SLR for a sniper doesn't one shot to the head, but a bolt action does. So where's the logic in that? You're telling me you would prefer me to shoot the body when I can kill somebody with a bolt action in one hit with a sniper. So where's the logic in that? And then the rate of fire is slower. So SLRs are pointless. Why not use an
Hmm.
assault weapon, a medic weapon at that point? And why ever go to an SLR? Yeah, a ZH, you can use it for fun. It's fun. But that's not the meta. Anybody who will utilize their logic when you come to a situation, let's say, because it kicks. Why would you ever go for a headshot? And then that teaches you the opposite of what you're supposed to do with
Right.
your aim, because now you're just aiming for the body. Why not pull out the M1 Garand? Why not pull out some other gun that shoots way faster that can hit something in 2 or 3 shots and do it more effectively
Mm-hmm.
than SLR? There's no logic in that. I've said that many times. People always ask me why I don't use SLRs. Is because, well, why would I headshot? And what if not headshotting? Then I'm playing poorly. You
Is
know.
there any logic to adding something like an AT rifle for that goes against infantry primarily?
Well, then what is Dice trying to tell us when they create an AT rifle? They want people to play stationary, but then you have a bolt action where you have mobility. So you're upset about the player base in MMGs about being prone. So then you create a weapon where people camp and sit prone. So what is Dice trying to tell us when they do that?
Looks like they
I mean,
want to. I don't know. It looks like they want to counter that, and they're also not touching those in the new patch. So that
so
tells
then
you
what's the,
another story.
where's
Like
the
what?
logic? You know, like for a casual player, their thought process is the ET rifles are so strong they can really, one shot, but I have to go prone or I have to be,
Mm-hmm.
walled up with a bipod. But now you're leading the casual players astray, and the pro players know for a fact the bolt actions are better. So now you're making the casual players frustrated because they don't know what guns to use. There's no logic in that either. It's just honest feedback. It's like,
Right.
you tell your casual player base the AT rifles make a large bang, they're so cool, but then when you put them in a real world scenario, it's not winnable for a casual player. So
Okay.
why would you
So
do that to them?
right from what you've read in this weapons balance part of the update, does it need to stop? They can't release this. Is this what you're saying?
I don't really know whether or not they need to release it. I think the players need to figure out how they want to play and what they're teaching the players. Because you can release a TTK and then try to corral the player base to play a certain engagement, whatever you want that to be.
Yeah.
But the pro players are always going to find a way. We're going to find the gun that's best for long range engagements, and then all the players are going to play that. The casuals are going to be the ones that are going to be confused. So it's up to Dice and it's up to EA to try to figure out what they're trying to tell the player base and whether the casuals are going to understand it or not. That's not up to us. It's not up to me. Whether the TTK works is really up to Dice to sit there and say, what are we telling the player base with this TTK, and what guns are going to be the meta and what guns are not, and how are we going to corral players to play the game the way we want them to play it. And right now, there's a million different ways to play this game, which is why Battlefield
Hmm.
highlighted in that article the sandbox feel. Fantastic. You have a sandbox
Right.
feel,
Yeah.
but when you have a sandbox feel, obviously a player doesn't really know what to do unless they are pushed a certain direction, right?
Yeah, they need those. I think they want to bring in a lot of the infantry onto objectives because you won't be effective anywhere else. I think that's what one of their goals is from
Yeah,
what the
that would
article
make
says.
logical sense. How do we get people logically to play an objective? So it could work. Could you imagine where everyone's on a point and doing something? It could logically work, but this is the hard part about balancing, and you have to guess what the player base is going to do. And the competitive players, we know how to work around players who play poorly, and the
Mhm.
players are just going to continue to make bad decisions, and we're just going to keep abusing mechanics. I'll go back to World of Warcraft because I use it as an example.
Sure, sure.
In World of Warcraft, when I did a lot of world first and tie-in kills like US 12th, Blizzard would implement a mechanic and they would say you have to stay in this phase for approximately 1 minute until you do this X, Y, and Z amount of damage. One of them was like a dragon soul where you had to damage the spines. You had to go through the rotation of it. So what do we do as competitive players? All right, we're gonna X out a healer. We're gonna one heal this fight, and everyone we're gonna kick out all the people who does damage over time. We're gonna only bring players who can burst damage, and we're gonna avoid 2 phases of the fight. Okay,
Okay.
well, Blizzard didn't anticipate that because now we're completely breaking the meta or what they envision in terms of the game. So unfortunately, they have to
God.
try to balance on what competitive players are going to do, because if they don't, then the people who get punished are the casuals, because the casuals can't make those decisions and like say, oh, we're going to bring in this class and they can play at the same skill level. We can drop a healer and still play at that level. Well, they'll never be able to compete. They'll never be able to play at that level, and it's hard to balance. I get it. It's an
It is hard.
impossible task, but it's why you know the competitive players, the people who put the most time, are able to tell you what a player can and cannot do. An example of that, Al Sundan. I think it can potentially be a fantastic map. I think the downsides to the map, if you
Yeah.
say that the map is a tank map,
A
right?
vehicle focus. Yeah, vehicle focus. Mhm.
It's supposed to be vehicle focused, but it's not in my eyes, because the objectives are up north where there's buildings and there's infantry, and the tanks down below have no objectives. They have maybe one, and they got to traverse. And when they finally go north into the infantry and they take out the bridge, which is a world event there, you're telling me that this map is now infantry based. You're trying to create a sandbox But the problem with the map is that the tanks have no effective means in Alcin Down.
They're
I
slow,
think it's a,
clunky. You got to traverse a lot of bridges
and
or
when they
rocks in between
yeah,
each
and whenever they
valley.
actually try to get into the objective point, they're useless because there's buildings everywhere, and now you have, urban warfare where they're just no longer effective. So, is that a tank map or is it an infantry map? From a competitive standpoint, to win, the goal is to win in Battlefield and play the objective and on the point. But tanks are useless, and a majority of the map is not used. So, what's the point of the map? I don't quite understand that.
It kind of brings me
I
back to Panzerstorm now. Uh, it kind of seems that they were getting analytical data that people want more of a tank experience. So let's make a big, huge map that's just a field, and then add like 16 tanks or something to the map. That's what the player base wants. And then when you quickly realize it's just
It is what the player base
extremely,
wants, and it's not what the player
yeah,
base wants. If you look at
right, how
Battlefield,
they had to pick a direction.
there's three different type of player bases. Again, you have infantry, you have
Mm-hmm.
air, and you have tanks. Let's just say for math
Yeah.
purposes, we say there's 33.33% in every single facet of that game. You look at Reddit, there's, let's just throw a number, 10,000. So 3,333 of those individuals apiece are all going to complain on whichever point of the game that they personally play, and their data is impossible to balance because you have a player base that you can try to justify, and there's three different types of games within Battlefield. I've said it once and I'll say it again. I do
Okay.
not envy the developers because they are in an impossible task of balancing this game. You can choose a direction and then X out infantry or whichever you want to do, but then now you only have one player base. Is this battle tanks? Is this Call of Duty? Is this an air simulator? I don't know. It's a hard game to balance, and then once you create a new Battlefield, you now have to reinvent the wheel, and you now have new guns, new metas, and it's why I personally think that Battlefield suffers, and it's a difficult game to put out because you finally get the balance right in Battlefield 4 to a degree, and you say you can improve upon it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you create a new Battlefield and you add new mechanics, new guns, new maps, and you say we're going to try to do the same thing. CS:GO took like a decade to balance their game, and it was just infantry. How can Battlefield balance it realistically in a decade,
Mm-hmm.
not only infantry, but tanks and air, which now creates verticality with air, and you have tanks that have armor, which is like Overwatch essentially, and Overwatch doesn't even have their balance perfectly. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's an impossible task, but hey, I it's admirable to see Dice go for it. It's why I play Battlefield. It creates an experience that no other game has. It's why
Exactly.
Call of Duty fails at 32 versus 32. It's why you don't see other streamers in the Battlefield directory running to Call of Duty, because it is hard. It's not easy to do. It's not pandering when you say, "Oh, it's hard to do." It's just these are facts. And this is why I talk so openly and candidly about it. And honestly, I talk about it while I'm gaming, so I'm never able to get these thoughts in such an elegant way or non-elegant, depending on your perspective of how you're looking at this. But whenever I'm sitting here and actually saying all this stuff, it's like, wow, that's so right. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I'm saying that these are the problems, and anybody who looks at this can't disagree. You can't disagree with this. Like these are just straight facts when you look at it, because people play 1,000 hours into a video game. Of course, I'm going to be able to tell you what's wrong and what's right with the game.
Do you think the 5v5 game mode idea was they were just trying to reinvent the wheel and try to get into a competitive field?
Everything they do in Battlefield is reinventing the wheel.
Yeah, that's what I
There
kind
is
of
no
every single
non-invent.
Battlefield.
There is no non-reinventing the wheel, and it goes back to the same thing where you ask yourself, well, how do you balance this game? Well, 5v5 could have worked. It 100% could have. But if
Mm-hmm.
your casual player base plays 32 versus 32, and that's, if you look at the analytics, I guarantee you maybe 60% play 32 versus 32, maybe 70. I don't know, because that's what Battlefield is known for, big player bases, and that's what Call of
Mm-hmm.
Duty. Peak players say that's what Battlefield is, and I guarantee that's what they market and that's what they
Yep.
push. So I'm going to assume that's a larger percentage, just throwing out the number. So therefore, how can 5v5 work if that's what people They don't play that. How does it work? If you say, I'm going to play football, right? Okay, we all have a general understanding of what the rules are, but for competitive football, there's a different rule set. So as a casual person who understands football, the competitive version is completely different and I don't relate to it. So how am I supposed to enjoy that experience? That's why it doesn't succeed. That's why it doesn't work. It's not that DICE can't competently create a 5v5. It's that what they're marketing and what they're pushing are not the same message and agenda. I've said that
Yeah,
many times to them as well.
and you need a basis for this. You need the tools to keep this alive and working, where the community can come in and start playing with it and start, creating tools. That's
There's no right or wrong with this.
yeah.
There is no right or
directionality
wrong
here.
There's no if they said Battlefield's going to be a 5v5 on a daily basis, and they said we're canning everything else,
And so
by
be
all
it.
means, it could work. Or they
Yeah.
said we're going to create this game, and it could work. And all these games, Battlefield, it could work. It's there. The tool set is there. You need a massive team to be able to pull that off. And the unfortunate part when you create a massive team is the larger the team, the harder it is to get stuff done at a corporate level, and it's just not possible to do. Like let's say you doubled DICE's staff today, and I only know this because I work in a corporate environment,
Sure.
and it's the diminishing return effects. If you say we're gonna let's say they're just throwing numbers out there. Let's say they have 50 people creating a competitive mode. Let's say you triple it. Let's say we're gonna put 150. I'm just upping the stakes. You put 150 people on that same project. It doesn't mean it goes faster. It means that there's more meetings, there's more heads butting, and people aren't seeing the direction. Because if you have 150 people versus 50, now you have people who are brilliant on both aspects, who have the vision of this, vision of that, and it just doesn't work. It's just not going to, because more people doesn't mean better things.
Well, that's
right?
the problem Anthem got into, right? Supposedly, when it comes
Anthem's
to
a whole nother story.
Yeah, when it comes to like a direction, as an example.
Anthem had like a million years worth of development time and just failed because it was poor planning. I don't even know if you can even blame EA on that. That's Bioware just messing up. They screwed up. I mean, EA sucks in a sense where they, have a bad rep. But listen, if Bioware had 5 or 6 years and they created that, that's on them. They screwed up.
Yeah, now DICE has this moment in the sun. EA's granted them a year and a half to 2 years of more development for their next Battlefield game that they want to release in 2022 or somewhere around there. Now, what do they need to focus on? A specific direction for Battlefield? And
That's up
keep
to them.
it?
I mean,
I
don't have the nobody's gonna have the answers except for
but
them.
they need to
sit down and agree what that next game looks like, and all say we're gonna put all the time, we're gonna put all the effort into this, and say this is what the game looks like. And literally, they're gonna have to pick a vision of what the community loves, and whatever vision they decide to pick, capitalize on that. And unfortunately, they're gonna have to ignore everyone else. It doesn't matter what
Look what Respawn did. They're like, okay, we're going to either make a Titanfall 3 game, or we're going to go with this BR craze. And they went full bore, the whole team. We're coming together, we're making a BR game. We're not making, And so Apex was born.
Apex is a mistake.
Why is that?
I'm not saying a mistake because it wasn't a mistake because they didn't want it to succeed. It was an accidental mistake of how well it did. They didn't choose to make just a battle royale game. Companies don't just choose to put all their eggs in one basket, because corporate businesses don't do that, because it's poor business.
Okay.
They were already probably making a Titanfall. Let's just be honest. They were probably already making a Titanfall game.
Well, they said
but Apex did so well, and sometimes this can happen whenever you have a certain team and they have a certain vision. Maybe the fact that they were so small working on it. But this is me looking from the outside.
Okay.
They released Apex, and then what happened afterwards? There wasn't enough content. What does that tell me? That tells me that they didn't anticipate the success of Apex, and the team was not as large as what they were doing elsewhere. So the team that was elsewhere working on something else now got put on Apex, and now the focus is Apex. It was an accident. Nobody anticipated, not even developers anticipated, that game was going to do as well as it did. And nobody can sit there and tell me otherwise because actions speak louder than words. You release the game as a surprise, you have no follow up content, and then all of a sudden you put all your eggs in one basket, and all of a sudden the direction of EA on their stockhold meeting starts saying, we're believing in Apex. Well, if they want to impress stock shareholders, they would have
Yeah.
hyped the game and put that in front of stock shareholders. The reason why they didn't is because they said, I mean, this could really flop. So why would we advertise that to stock shareholders? And if it flops, then our stock is going to plummet.
Yeah, but Daz, how do you accidentally make a good game? Like,
Well, I mean, just like anything
they
else that spirals and comes out of control, everything is always a happy accident when something like that happens. Whenever I started streaming and doing content creation, did I think I was going to be putting as much effort as I did and going as far as I have? No, this is an accident, man. All this stuff is always an accident. What you build behind it is having talent and good people working on something and
and that's what
having
they
a
had.
dream and a vision. And obviously, Respawn has a great team. So
Mhm.
whatever they're working on is probably going to be good. Look at Jedi Fallen Order. Obviously,
I
it
know.
works. It
Yeah.
looks like it did very, very well. And I mean, I played it for like 4 hours last night. It's a fun
Same.
game, you know?
Same.
But then the question is like, how did that happen? You know, you set things up for success and then you just kind of roll with it. And some things work and some things don't. You know, that's just, but you can't anticipate when stuff spirals out of control. And the answer to everybody who is successful will always say, I didn't expect this to happen. Anders was just in chat and we were just chatting about it. He was like, I didn't expect people to watch me. Nobody expects you or things to happen. They
Expects,
just
yeah.
happen. It just happens, dude.
Sometimes people expect too much, and maybe that could hurt them in the long run. But yeah,
It
you're right. I
does.
mean, nobody expects to grow in a certain way, but you gotta believe in yourself to prove yourself that you have talent. And I think that's what you have done,
Look at
and all the
Fortnite.
other. Yeah, look at
Fortnite is a
Fortnite.
great example. It
Yeah,
was a single player
pretty
game.
much
The BR was made on a whim. They were very talented to
based
begin
on
with. They
some.
knew how to make a game.
Yeah, it was based on some. What kind of game mode it was? I don't remember.
Well, the BR was supposed to be a side
Horde
project.
mode, a horde mode or something.
Yeah,
That's
and they
the
put
main
all their
thing there.
money into it. Epic did, and all of a sudden they said, "Wow, the beer is really taking off. Why is it taking off?" Well, I mean, they were already a talented team. They knew
Yeah.
how to make a game, and they put some effort into it, and then it just spiraled. And there's talent there, so they're able to hone in on whatever game they're making. What's going to kill Fortnite is when Epic and Fortnite become, and this isn't a Fortnite topic, but it goes
I
back
know.
to
Yeah, it's all
Dice,
right. It's all
and
right. Yeah,
we'll compare it, and I'll bring it full circle with
that's what I
Dice.
want to do. Yes.
So, in comparison with Epic, whenever something becomes too big and you put too many minds behind something, that's when stuff starts to struggle. So, when DICE starts to struggle is because there's a lot of different visions. Fortnite had a small team that had a certain vision. When they got bigger, all of a sudden the vision becomes different. There's different ideas. The downside of Fortnite is going to be the fact that they can't do everything and they can only stick to one vision. The downside to Battlefield is the same exact thing, is that you have too many visions and you have too much stuff that you want to do, and there's no way to possibly do it because there's only so much time in a day and
Mm-hmm.
there's only so much resources you can throw at something. So that's to bring it back to DICE and Battlefield and why we have the problem we have today.
And so with that said, there were some. Let's go back into back into the Battlefield game and what's coming up here in the near future. Then we'll discuss what Battlefield has to do, between now and the next game. When it comes to like directionality, good leadership, things like that. But let's just hop back into and finish off this patch discussion once and
Yeah.
for all. There's a point of there's an idea when it comes to acquiring an enemy, where it comes to like visuals and all that. So they've introduced an old idea that's been around for ages, this enemy acquisition icons when you're in range of an enemy. Now their reasoning to bring it back was to counter the poor visibility or the interactions where people just scream out, I can't see them, right? So within about 28 meters, if you're looking at an enemy in the open, and you aim at them, or I don't know if you have to aim at them, but just look at them directly over their body, they will be spotted personally, which is something they forgot to state. They had to edit that whole part out. But and then within 15 you get another target icon displaying more things about it, or like which class they are and everything like that. And it goes away when they're not in direct line of sight. Let me show you a video of someone actually testing this. I believe it was with where they are. It's with the Music and Ravik. Do you know these guys?
Yeah.
So back in the day, they it looks like in the closed alpha of Battlefield 1, they were thinking about bringing this in, and it was a 3D proximity auto spotting, basically. The problem with this one, I think, that it was auto spot to where everyone can see what you're looking at. And this actually kind of got into Battlefield 5, which I'll show you. But hey, let's take a look at this real quick, about just how it looks here.
Like, it's not a...
You don't have to look at me. You don't have to...
No, I'll look away from you. I'll keep you in my peripheral vision.
Oh, I'm already doing that.
So you see how he like gets close, like it's in a vision and whatnot. But later on in the video, things like this happen here in this screenshot.
Yeah, it goes through walls.
Or
I've seen this.
it goes through walls.
I've talked to Ravik about it. Yeah.
Right, and this, can this be an issue, or you think they have addressed this? Because it doesn't seem like they explained it very well. With the possible issues coming up with this new 3D spotting, interacting, personal spotting.
So 3D spotting is a it's a tough subject, because realistically, for any player who's streaming, and I'll use Enders as an example, because he runs around and obviously he's shooting a lot of things, and then the frustrating thing that he runs into is he can't see somebody. As Battlefield becomes more realistic looking game, the palette becomes harder and harder for visibility. It's just going to be impossible, because the more realistic a game looks, graphics and details and textures, the more stuff will blend in. And the only way you can fix it is by putting a ring around something, or letting us have the ability to remove anti-aliasing, right? But now you have RTX on, which, you have that huge fiasco and issue. And I personally thought that RTX was going to be a great addition to Battlefield, but now it just highlights more of the problem that Battlefield is going to run into, is spotting. So I go back to what Enders runs into. When Enders goes into a situation, he pushes and he can't see the people who are prone, who are hiding, and necessarily sometimes they just blend into their environment. There is no solution to fix that besides changing the way the game looks in terms of overall color, which is why he utilizes like a shader,
it's a configuration file,
so you can try to see it, otherwise it's impossible to see. You can train your eyes to see it. So the spotting only helps the pro player. It does not help the casual.
Right.
A pro player can still see no matter what. I mean, we run into issues where we can't see the people on the ground, but that just solves our problem of a pro player and makes it harder for a casual player. And yes, it'll lead them to the engagement the way they should, properly engage, and hopefully that'll teach the player base. But this goes back to the problem, what you're pointing out in the video, is that of proximity spotting. So the problem that you have with spotting is that every time you implement a new mechanic, it's going to break things. So no matter what you do and implement into Battlefield 5, it's going to break something. It's just the reality of a situation. If you're a coder or anything like that in IT, you just know for a fact that there is unforeseeable things that you cannot predict. So it's the same thing with like the fire. You throw fire and it goes through a wall. So how do you fix that? Well, you hard code a wall, so then you can't. So now you have to code that, and that takes hours and hours to try to logically implement that. So now you're going to put proximity spotting into walls that no longer were created that way, and now you run into this endless loop of a problem of trying to solve. So do I think that 3D spotting is going to be helpful? I mean, I guess. I mean, I don't see it as a plus or a downside. Maybe the plus is that people can't hide. It does break the immersion of people of how they feel about it. So again, I get what they're trying to do. I get what they're trying to do.
I think they just want people. It is going to break. Yeah, I think they just want people to get off their butt and stop hiding, because that's what a lot of the criticism's going on is with people proning and whatnot.
And I think they have to be honest about that. I mean, if they're going to do that, then why not remove the ability to prone? Why not just give them the ability to crouch?
That would make too much sense, Daz.
But the problem that you run into is that Dice is making changes, but they have to. If I were Dice, I would try to say this is what we want Battlefield to look like. This is the way it looks today. If they highlighted and said people bipoding in a corner, wrong, and they said people tactically cutting corners, check, you're gonna either piss off players who actually camp that way, and they're gonna be like, well, that's just the way the game's meant to be. Dice doesn't know what they're talking about. But the unfortunate part is that Dice has to really showcase what the game should and should not look like until the pro players can take the helm and make it the way it should be, realistically. I mean, I hate to use it was funny whenever I've talked to Dice, we hate using the F word, Fortnite, but Fortnite really holds the most relatable thing for all this stuff. When you look at the building mechanic, it's impossible for casuals to win because the skill gap is so large, and the casuals have no idea what they're doing and how to combat it, right?
Yep.
So how do you pull that in line so casuals can have fun, and so there's a player base that wants to watch, that plays the game and all that stuff? I mean, Dice has the same problem, but not everyone agrees with what it looks like, man, and
yeah, that's an issue.
They have to pick a side, and a company doesn't want to pick a side because then you alienate that player base. Fortnite's never going to say the pro players are right, the casuals are right, and Dice is never going to do it. So as much as I want to speak optimistically that they want to pick a direction, their stock shareholders are one person, and
it looks like they tried to take some of your feedback for Firestorm when it comes to Fortnite, especially with the looting system. It looks like they were trying to somehow replicate the looting system in Fortnite. Am I accurate on that, or?
I would 100% disagree that they're trying to listen to feedback in terms of Fortnite. Fortnite and Battlefield are two different games, and this is the issue that I have with the looting system of Firestorm. So you have a video game that suffers from visibility and everything is realistic, right? Okay. Fortnite can have the loot system they have because nothing is realistic in it. So if you have nice, shiny, little pretty colors that have halo effects over it, you can see the loot, right?
Sure.
When ammo drops out of a pack and it becomes vomit on the ground, and this is why PlayerUnknown created the box system, is that you have a palette that looks realistic. If gone on the ground, you see red, you see green, and you see blue, but there's no highlight in hue. And if you were in a shadowy corner, those colors look darker. How can you expect a player, especially when the storm comes, to realistically find and locate the loot that they're trying to pick up? Well, the way to do that is to, again, make the game unrealistic, put little shiny rings and have items float up in the air. But Dez, my immersion, that's not what Battlefield is. Correct.
Oh, no.
So how do you solve for that? You can't become Fortnite in that aspect. You have to understand what you're trying to create in the environment and put the box on the ground. But they didn't create a box. They said, oh, the loot's going to spread out a little bit more on the ground. All right, I still can't see what in the world I'm picking up. And I can if I get really close. And the solution was to go prone and kind of traverse the loot and try to press F on whatever you're trying to pick up, or E, depending on your interact key. And so, no, they didn't listen to feedback in terms of their game because they don't see the overall vision of what they're trying to create. If somebody said just recreate Fortnite, okay, great. Well, we'll add fortifications that will be like Fortnite. Now, okay, great. Now you're creating fortifications in Battlefield. What happens when you build too quickly or too slow? If you build too slow, the mechanic's useless. If you build too fast, and people can't shoot through it, now it's unrealistic. All right, well, that doesn't create what you're trying to build in Battlefield. You just can't nitpick and take random things from another game and throw it into something. It doesn't work unless you understand the vision. Apex has done the loot system beautifully. I mention it because it's under EA. And you go through the box, everything is color-coded, it makes sense, it feels like Apex, it matches the environment, it does it better. Maybe not better than Fortnite. Maybe Fortnite is fine the way it is, where stuff is colorful and you pick it up. I don't know. It matches that environment.
It's good for new players too, because they can see, oh well, priorities, and they're colored very well, like shields. Purple shield, grab that first. It's right there immediately.
So you tell me you want me to pick up armor plates in Battlefield Firestorm, and they're gray.
They're super small,
and the ground is black and gray, and then there's fire. I don't know. I can't pick it up. Nobody can. You can't tell me in a competitive standpoint, would you ever want to hear a pro player, I can't see. Where is it? Nobody wants to hear that. Oh, no, it looks like Dazs is struggling to find the armor pieces. Will he get it in time before somebody comes into a firefight? Great, now I have RNG. What could I have done to win that situation? oh, find the little speck and play Where's Waldo. Now pro players have to go practice their Where's Waldo skills to get better at gaming. I don't know if that's the solution or that's the answer, but it doesn't seem like fun for me because there is no competitive Where's Waldo.
Yeah, then there, even when it comes to like a skill gap, right? Quickly equipping these things fast, getting the right items fast, the right attachments, and all that. The Firestorm system didn't seem to have any of that, from what I can tell. And
But you
I
have
don't
a
know.
game that was built by one set of developers, Criterion, right?
Criterion,
And
yeah.
I think they had a great vision for the game. It looks like it, but then now none of them are working on it. So now you've passed over the game
yep.
to either Dice LA or Dice Sweden, and Criterion can have all the notes in the world, but they're like, well, I mean, I don't really know what to do with this. So let's say you imagine yourself, you're working on something, and then somebody comes along and says, by the way, you're going to work on this now. And you're like, I am? I don't really have experience on that, but sure, I guess I can create the resources to become good at this and figure out the vision for it. I don't really know.
Yeah. You brought up a really good idea in one of your YouTube videos. When it comes back in the day, when it comes to confusion when it regards to people dying or how they died, I really think they should add something like they did in Hardline. You talked about a kill card in one of your YouTube videos, and what do you think? Do you think they should add something like that come on the upcoming patches?
I think it's incredibly difficult for them to do. And as much as I want them to do it, it's going to be buggy. Every time you put something new in the game, and I don't mean to sound pessimistic on the situation. I think they have to refine what they have, and I think that's what they're trying to do.
Okay.
And I want them to put all this stuff in, but from a probably coding standpoint, as simple as that would be to put in, you would have to break everything that it's built around currently and how it registers stuff. And I assume the server may have to pick up things and figure out how to code that, or some degree. That is probably going to be wrong. It won't be right, and it won't serve its purpose, and it's just going to be more confusion, and it's just difficult. I want that, sure. I would love to have a more detailed kill card, but instead of putting time in the kill card, why not just balance other aspects of the game instead?
Or well, I kind of meant for like I should have rephrased that, but because I understand that this is not a priority right now for Battlefield. There's bigger fish to fry, but in a future Battlefield game, the one that they are planning on releasing, do you think they should have something like that?
It depends on what it could look like. I mean, I think Apex has a decent kill card where it shows the amount of damage that came through.
Okay.
It's difficult. I guess I would need to see the view and what happens in a gunfight, because the TTK, if it's slower or faster, I guess I don't really know the exact wording, how to phrase it. How do you map out effectively what happened between a few milliseconds of a gunfight, right?
Mm-hmm.
To where the information makes sense of how you got hit. So the kill card can show a headshot or show like a spray and show where the bullets hit, but information is only as good as it's displayed. So if I see every single shot, some of them hit the head and hit the body, how is the information going to be laid out to me, and how is it beneficial? And is it a waste of resources and time to even try to look at that whenever the resources of the server, I can assume, could be put towards something else? Does that make sense?
I think so.
Because if you get a spray and there's 2 headshots and the rest are body shots, but it's not laid out in a second by second basis, the information kind of is helpful, but it doesn't really. I don't really know how much it really makes a big difference in the situation for the time that it probably takes coding.
Yeah,
like CS:GO, it doesn't have a kill card.
I'm more concerned about getting hit the same time kind of thing, because it usually feels like, well, either the guy's a hacker or I got hit by 2 snipers at once. Like, I would like to see that kind of
how many
information.
people hit you. Well, now we're getting into more in depth. So you want to see the name of the person that hit you, how much damage they did to you, and the broken down within seconds. So it's maybe less of a kill card and more of a text log of what occurred. That would make more sense.
Yeah,
to put
I feel like a computer can do that very quickly and with little to no effort. I feel like that would be
I wouldn't think it would
shoo-in.
be to little to no effort. I think it would be a lot of effort based on how much would need to be coded. Let's say there's 64 people, and over the course of a time, there's X, Y, and Z amount of deaths, and they're all producing logs that appear. Imagine a bunch of notepads appear,
Okay.
and let's say everyone got hit at once, and now you have 32 notepads that appear full of text, and now you expect the server to handle the notepads and everything that's happening. Is it a good amount of resources to put into it? Because it works better when the engagements are there's time in between them. But if
Okay.
32 people are hit and 32 pages worth of notepads appear on the server, is
Sure.
that going to overload it? And does it make sense whenever, if we're trying to reach 60 hertz, 120 hertz, wouldn't it be better to increase the player count rather than, yes, I want a kill card and everything, but it's like something like that. I guess I feel like I wish people thought more about what are the repercussions of implementing something. I'm not saying I have the right answer in terms of it, but like if I were to break it down of implementing something in and realizing how much CPU power something takes, let's say you open up 10 tabs of Internet Explorer and you
Okay.
expect to run the game and not have a frame hit. It's unrealistic. So if you expect 32 notepads to all appear and then expect the server to dump it right after and you have it doing a million things at once, I'm pretty sure when then somebody dying, there's a lot of actions that probably take place. The player has died. He has something on the ground. There's a kill card that appears. If he gets res, what happens to the kill card? Did they read it? What happens to information if he dies? What reappears? Like, it's an absolute mess. It's kind of why I laughed at the fact that whenever
Okay.
dragging was going to be implemented into the game, I was like, there's no way that's going to happen. People can't
I
even figure out
I
where they're going to
struggled.
die or spawn, you know? There's no
I
way that's going to
struggled.
happen.
I struggled to figure out how they were going to implement it. I was like, okay, well, first off, it has to be really fast, otherwise you're all gonna die.
And is it
Especially
client side or is it server side?
It-
Because
right.
when
Yeah,
people
who's gonna see
die,
this?
the ragdoll flies across the screen and goes into another location, right?
Is that is
and
it still
and it's a
there or
different
is he
spots
over
on the
there?
screen. Is it still there? Are we agreeing that it's based on what the server says and not what the player says? And I've been res in Battlefield 4 many a times where I teleport clear across the goddamn map. So I mean, where am I gonna get dragged to? Like, am I gonna be dragged and all of a sudden I appear out of nowhere into like heaven? Like,
Right.
what happens in that scenario? You know, that's what I was like. There's no way that's gonna happen. There's no
Yeah.
way. Now you have to put the stress on the server.
I
you
thought
know?
they were like geniuses or something, just figured this out right away. I don't
mean,
know.
It's like if we try to focus on what the servers need, faster bandwidth and faster information, and right now internet can only go so fast. I can only try to, and
Oh
I know
god.
I
Okay,
look at all
okay,
this
I
stuff.
see what you're saying.
You know, there's
You're talking
everything can
about
travel at the speed of light.
fundamentals. You're talking about fundamentals here, like a basis of where to start, so you don't create new problems and try to patch them up in a specific way. I
Exactly.
think I missed the point as well when I bring up the kill card. Well, do you need a kill card or do you need to fix the fundamental issues what the game has right now? I feel like
Because all
that's what you're
kill
trying
card's
to
gonna
say.
say of what's wrong with the game, and they're
It's
like, well, we just spent all this time trying to get the kill card and it caused lag.
man. Okay, I see
Where do
what
we
you're
put our
saying.
efforts into? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's such a this cat was like jumping up. That's
Okay.
gonna be such a huge problem. And I'm not saying everyone needs to look at it, because I look at this stuff because I obsess over crap like this. You know, I like look at the server and the realistic, like, will we ever be able to create a game where we can play with people from China or wherever country, Germany, Japan, Russia, from the United States, and have the server agree where everyone is at and play with almost no latency? Well, now you run into the laws of physics, right? And I was like, can internet be faster than what it is? And like, I don't really know. Is that physically possible? Are we
could
hitting
somehow,
a plateau?
Yeah, maybe we could somehow manipulate that.
And how
in,
much money
it-
would that take just to play a
an
video game?
obscene
You know?
amount, man. People, if the demand is high, the money is there. God dang it, they'll make an AI system that'll fool physics pretty much to where people can play. I don't know. That would be interesting future for just games in general. But
Yeah, and
it-
I get nobody wants to approach looking at it from an analytical standpoint like that, because
Right.
it's like, who does that? That's some insanity. And the only reason, you know, people like us probably look at it from that standpoint is because we're passionate about the game. We put all this time and effort into it.
Mhm.
You know, it could be a career, it makes money, I don't know. Whatever the motivation is, it's it's next level, and people don't think like that. So how do you make it simple for people to digest and make sure that it works properly? I mean, to circle back to kind of help focus the conversation, Dice needs to say what is
Right.
and what is not realistic to do, and then put it in their game. Fix if I were to say what needs to happen to fix Battlefield 5, I don't necessarily disagree with the TTK. I don't know if it'll ruin or make the game better. And maybe perhaps there's also this thought process. What if they're testing the TTK for this because it's going to impact how they balance and make the next Battlefield? What if the next Battlefield is
Absolutely.
all close range encounters and they may use this TTK and people may love it? I don't really know. They're just speculating, because
Right.
everything is all tied together. If they make a decision, they have to be thinking further down the road of how this
They
is
did
going to
that in
look.
battle. They did that in Battlefield 1.
They did.
Yeah.
Whenever I talked about Battlefield 1, I remember whenever they implemented stuff, I was like, oh, this is all new stuff. I was like, we've seen this before. The gas
Yes.
masks come from Battlefield Hardline. The increased hurt servers come from Hardline. All this stuff come from the basis of a previous game. It's all there, and all they're doing is trying to improve upon it. So if I were DICE, I would try to fix Battlefield 5 and get it shaped up to segue to the next Battlefield. So there's a
Yes.
seamless handoff from Battlefield 5 to the next Battlefield, whether it's modern or whether it's not. And they say, this is a definitive version of Battlefield. Awesome. Finally, we all agree with the definitive version, whether it's X, Y, and Z. And they take that handoff and move it to the next Battlefield and don't reinvent the wheel. Do not try to create a new Battlefield. Granted, from marketing, from a standpoint, they say this is a new Battlefield, but I think the problem, or not the problem, is that gamers want a consistent experience. I think it's why new single player games, a lot of stuff really struggles, is that there's only so many ways you can create a video game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we're creating so many video games that there is the idea of there is no new anymore. Where are we seeing new mechanics or new ideas? We're hitting a plateau of diminishing returns where you can't hit new unless you bring in something new like virtual reality, walking around and playing a game. But now you're expecting everyone to hop on board with a new idea, new mentality. Why not just perfect and fix what we're doing now and take that to the next level so everyone's on board, right?
Right. It kind of
And-
feels like for the Pacific, when it comes back to Battlefield 5, it kind of seems like they wanted to re-release the game. They change all the icons, they change the color schemes. Everything seems new and different. Great trailer, new marketing, whole bunch of new cosmetic items, all that stuff. And then now it looks like they're trying to reset. And what they did back then when they wanted to reset, they introduced this new TTK. Now they're doing it again a year later. I feel like it's just, you have something good going here. I think people are liking it. And now you want to shake up the bag of dice, pretty much. You want to shake it up and you want new metas all of a sudden within a few weeks of re-releasing your game. I kind of feel like this is bad timing. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree nor disagree with it because I can't. We can't really guess and speculate what they're trying to do. This new TTK could honestly fix a lot of things, and I know this because of World of Warcraft and other games. You can throw something out there and say this is what the meta is, but then once it's in the live environment, it completely acts different than what we all expected. We can guess, and my best guess is that sniping is going to become a very powerful meta.
Yeah.
You're going to have weapons that will feel a lot more consistent. But maybe the idea would be to increase their damage and utilize what they're trying to put into that TTK and make the damage consistent across long range. But I get what they're trying to do by pushing people to the objective, because people don't push because they can kill people long range. And if snipers run up close range and they won't, again, I see what they're trying to do. I can understand that standpoint. Won't really know until it goes in a live environment. But the unfortunate part is that they've tried to change the TTK before.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they back it up with strong communication and they say, this is right, this is wrong, this is what we want to do. And they say, if they literally say the words that maybe I'm saying, I'm not saying I have the right answers, but it would be great if they said, we see players camping in the back of the map, shooting people a mile away, and we don't like it. Great. Dice has put a standpoint on something. We want people to run on the objective, and everyone's like, "Yeah, we can all agree on that." Wouldn't it be great if everyone's on the objective instead of shooting people a mile away? Great. So we got everyone on the exception. Now, people who snipe like me, we're the minority, right? People who run around with a sniper and have the power and the skill that we probably have. But they're like, we're changing the TTKs because we're tired of bipodders. We're tired of this. We want pro play. We want to see actual gameplay on the objective. If they market it that way, all right, I can get that. I'm sure you probably agree. That kind of sounds interesting.
There
right?
you go. Sure.
There's a positive spin on it, but they're not saying that, so I'm putting the words in their mouth because that's what I see. If we review it, then yeah, that makes sense. And Oliver makes a strong point. I think they should bring the CTE instead of just dropping changes. The fortunate part is that I would like a CTE, but as much money as Battlefield 5 is probably not making, we're probably not going to get one. There's just
they said. I mean, the community manager specifically stated that Battlefield 5 would never have a CTE.
It probably doesn't have the money. That would create a whole nother environment of the game, and probably doesn't have the money to do so when they can use the money for something else. And I agree. Yeah, instead of dropping the changes, maybe if they market this community, we have a kill switch to revert the changes if they do not work. What we want to see is this. We want to see more plays on the objective. We're tired of people farming in the back with MMGs and using STGs and out damaging snipers and all these other classes.
Okay.
It's going to do less damage, but it's going to be a little more consistent so you know what damage you're doing at that range. Our intention is that we hope that people push the objective and that you see more close quarter plays. And we're hoping by lowering the damage that might change the TTK of the tanks and have them stop camping in the back of the map, shooting and spraying. We want the engagements close and we have more Battlefield type moments. I'm down for that. I can totally agree with that standpoint. And then at that point, if we're in a conversation of bringing people into that closer range encounter, the next thought process would be, how do we nerf snipers? Well, I have an answer for you. You add way less bullet velocity and you add way more drop. Done.
The bullet velocity is the key for me.
So
it is
the jungle carbine,
huge.
drop it, add the jungle carbine, but drop it an additional 100 meters and add more bullet drop. And now sniping takes way more skill, can be used long range, but also increase the damage. So maybe it can one hit at that range. Maybe if it's that difficult, and tweak sniping accordingly. Because sniping is just in Battlefield 1 was so overpowered. I agree. I don't want to see that meta. But if they make this TTK and take things in a step basis like that, then that would be great. And Hydro makes a strong point. My worry is it's going to turn into a mass Zerg instead of skill players taking the objective. Well, now they need to change the balancing of their maps. The intention was to always have players push the objective.
Yes.
And if they can't get players on the objective, then of course they can't balance their map or balance weapons. They would have to start, then the whole game would start to change, and they would say, well, now there's a mass Zerg fest and there are explosions everywhere. All right, lower the amount of damage that explosives do. Now we're in the conversation of what happens after. I don't disagree with this TTK change. I want to know how they're going to phrase it and position it, and it all goes to marketing. The development can have a huge mindset.
Yep.
I guarantee they all sat in a room and they're like, this is brilliant. We're going to have PTO. We're going to have all this Battlefield type moments. And there's the marketing guy and there's the marketing guy in the back. I don't really know how to position this at all. And the marketing guy has to be on board. And I literally just handed it to Dice. And if they ever watch this, I hope to God that they would listen to that, because I feel like everyone could agree with that. And then just like you said, if you have a kill switch to revert it back, if it doesn't work and you don't get the analytics and everything that you're looking for, then revert it back ASAP and just already preemptively say, guys, let's all just try this and see if it works. It's like a parent coming into the room. Like if you went to a certain event and you had your kids with you. I don't have kids, but if you were to tell them and say, if things don't work out, the car's right around the corner. We can just hop in and get out of there. Then we're going to go to Chuck E. Cheese. And the kid's like, yay, this may actually work. But then the kids get there and say, this isn't half bad. I guess we can stay here and hang out with Grandpa. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like whatever they prefer.
Right. They need to make that clear. And I mean, you see their article on Reddit right now, and they're going through edits on there just so they can explain certain things. That's troubling. That means they're not explaining their direction definitively. and they really need to do that. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And this is the time. Like I think they were trying to say in their article that actually just let me bring it up here. It'll be up here.
Well,
yeah.
let me defend a bit of Jeff and Adam.
Adam,
Their
yeah, who
communi-
wrote this?
yeah. While they're the ones that write it, they're
Yeah.
only as good as the information that they're given. I think that Jeff and Adam do a fantastic job of interacting with the community. My
Yeah.
concern whenever I look at the work they do is that they aren't provided the resources they need. I don't feel like that. This is not me defending their job or anything, but if I was in Jeff's and Adam's position, I sure would not want that job, because
That'd be a tough one.
it seems like the information that they're being handed is not being really effective. So I question the person who's delivering the information and making sure they understand what they're trying to convey and communicate. Because obviously, I assume that a development team has this. They have the back end workers that have the vision of the game. Then they hand it to the people who are the marketing people. Then they hand it to Jeff and Adam, who convey the message. So somewhere this isn't happening. And maybe it is Adam and Jeff. I don't know. You know, the unfortunate part is that for them is that they're the most forward-facing people that we look at. Those are our community managers. As a gamer, as a whatever you want to say, Twitch streamer, casual. That is our point of contact.
They're
And
making.
they are a
They're definitely
messenger.
making. They're making an effort to take this criticism. Look how they word it. Here's a breakdown of what we're doing and why we're doing it, right? But when they explain it, it's still very vague when I read into it. The charts
Because it's in text.
are vague.
You know,
Yeah.
They need to do live streams, and
That's why I wanted to do a show like this, is because Battlefield stopped doing that. They stopped going into depth, and I was like, "Oh, I'll do it. I'll bring on my own guests, and try to."
And I used to stream on the
explain things
official
better.
Battlefield channel.
Yeah,
at one
I remember
point.
that.
And I don't anymore. And obviously, and what I would have loved back then is to be able to say the things I'm saying now, but have some direction. Let's just imagine for a second if there was, let's say that more of the community, like yourself or the casual players, had the vision of what they wanted to push, and we could all agree and then push that vision else to other people, right?
Mhm.
Like, I'm breaking it down and I'm taking educated guesses of what they're trying to put together. Whether or not that is right or wrong is up for interpretation. But it would be great if we were on the official Battlefield channel and we were able to explain to a bunch of casual players from other people in the community and say, this is what DICE likes, and we were able to showcase in the community servers. This is what they don't like. This is what they're trying to do. And everyone's like, oh, okay, wow, I really understand what the game is. I understand what DICE is trying to do, because DICE is, there's only so much they can do to get the message out, right? It's up to us as content creators, the Twitch streamers, to the competitive players, to also mirror the image of what they're trying to say. And right now, I have no idea what their image is. I'm trying to guess just as much as you. The casuals, you have, and we'll talk lightly on rage culture. You have people who are the super positives who, well, I'll put them in 3 buckets. You have the normal people like ourselves who try to look at something and we don't suck up to DICE and we don't rage.
I'm
right?
a normie? No.
we're all just normies, right?
Okay,
and then you have the people who suck up to EA and they could do no wrong, and they are detrimental to the voice of what we're trying to do. And then you have the opposite spectrum where you have rage culture that is just tearing everything apart. And now the message across the board is completely mixed. And you have people tearing apart the game. You have people sucking up too much. And you can't get everyone on the same page. And I'm not even going to talk about politics at all. But now you have this whole this whole issue of like, well, where's the middle ground of everything? Because honestly, most people, we don't suck up, we don't rage, right?
The boomers. There you go.
Yeah, we're just the guys in the middle trying to figure out, like, what is this game trying to tell us, right? But then you get the 2 extreme spectrums of this whole situation. That's just an absolute mess. And the rage culture gets all the attention because that's what we all look at in terms of like YouTube content and streaming. And then you have the people who suck up to you making it just as bad. And then we're all in the center sitting here like, can we just get to the point? can we just fix this?
We need to
And it
fix
can't
this
be
now.
and it can't be fixed because we have everything else like just suffocating the whole situation. It's just it's so frustrating.
Yeah, but now we got some time. Maybe we can save the next Battlefield game, but they should use BF5 as a means of getting their fundamentals down, fixing them. Don't reinvent the wheel is what at least 4 or 5 of my guests have stated consistently. Why does every new Battlefield that comes out reinventing everything? Look what you had that
100%.
worked. Look what you had that worked in BF4. And it just, we
agree
keep
with that.
seeing the same thing happen again and again. Maybe because the marketing, like you stated, maybe they want to show that something actually new is happening and not that there's just a reskin.
Let's talk about something briefly about Battlefield and how everyone feels about it. Everyone has a favorite, right? Everyone always comes in my chat and they say, "What's your favorite Battlefield?"
What's your
And I never
favorite
have an answer, and because I don't care what's my favorite Battlefield, because I don't think about stuff like that. And the reason I don't is because, and I explain it very logically this way: you have Battlefield 1, you have Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, Bad Company, and it goes back to reinventing the wheel. All of those games can be literal godsend games, all of them. If you just tweak this, get this vision, and like you said, don't reinvent the wheel. So I don't have a favorite because they all get fixed to a certain degree, and I could always nitpick at every single one. I can look at Battlefield 1 and say, I hate how open the maps are. I hate the sniping meta. It doesn't feel like skill-based in that regard. And I hate the mermet spam. I hate the grenade spam I've ever done. But I love this. And I go back to Battlefield 4. I hate how there's so many attachments and almost none of them mean anything. I hate how the game took so long to get to a certain point, and then we finally got to the point you abandon it, and then we go to the next one. And I hate the suppression that Battlefield 4 brings. And then we go back to Bad Company. It's like, well, I hate how, it's like every single one of them has flaws. Even Battlefield 5 obviously has flaws, but every single one of those games, like CSGO, when it first came out, CSGO had flaws. But every time we create a new Battlefield, we reinvent the whole wheel, and we're sitting here from scratch trying to make a new Battlefield, trying to make it innovative. They're already innovative. They have something on the market that no other game has ever. Battlefield has tanks, air, and land. And it goes back to the start of our conversation where it's impossible to balance. And sea. Oh my gosh, I haven't even thought about sea. Which
hey, we're in the Pacific Ocean here. What's going on?
Yeah, and then they try to put in Battlefield 1, and now you're trying to balance that. Like, Jesus Christ, it's impossible. Nobody can realistically do that. And so, like, you have this unachievable task, and then you try to reset it every 2 or 3 years, and you expect the development team to create a miracle? Like, what?
Fix it, DICE!
And then we all rage at them, and then DICE is like, Jesus, I don't want to be DICE. That sucks. Like, you couldn't pay me 6 figures or even 7 figures to work at DICE because I'd probably want to jump off a bridge from that task. I would go home depressed and sad, and like, because it's unwinnable.
That's a
everything
tough
we
job.
talk about, like, it's unwinnable. There's no way you can win. And we talk about it here, and you have this whole podcast, and I guarantee every conversation you come down to the root cause of it, nobody's gonna win from that. That's sickening. Like, you couldn't pay us enough to work at DICE. And so everyone working at DICE, I'm like, and and we see developers like, we're people too, and I guarantee there are people too, and I understand that, and they're in this rough situation. This isn't me sucking up to it at all, because at the end of the day, there are people like us. And the other part of it is that, I don't know, maybe it's their leadership. I don't know. Somebody needs to make a call and drive a direction. Please, somebody take over the wheel. And you know how you said that, and I'm going to be really open and honest about this specifically.
Okay.
If Battlefield died tomorrow because they went into a certain direction, I wouldn't be sad. The reason why? Because now I can play another game. No, because I can find another game.
Oh,
because now I can go to something else that satisfies my itch of where I want to go. I have actually woken up several times and I wish, like, man, I just wish Battlefield as a franchise would die so then we can all go find something else where we can get delivered the experience we want. Because maybe the experience that I'm looking for just isn't here in the game. The unfortunate part that Battlefield has is that it delivers on so many experiences, and they are all amazing. But you just get everything. You get a little bit of taste of everything. But let's say you went into a buffet and all the buffet just, it's all there. They have my macaroni, they have my pizza. I can get chicken, I can get rice, but it doesn't do anything good. but I keep going back there because, gosh, they have everything there. So it just
Right.
it tilts me because it's all there, and I can get a taste of it. But it's so close. The mac and cheese is so close to perfection.
But you
And I
said
really-
you wouldn't be sad if Battlefield went away or that mac and cheese went away.
But at least now I can go to a different restaurant and get what I'm looking for and piecemeal it
really?
and find my experience. That would be great.
What restaurant? What restaurant would you want to go?
Well,
dude?
let's say that
what
how
gives
many
you
times
this
a restaurant?
experience?
Well, because I know because stuff is closed around us. Think about Discovery Zone as a kid. I don't know. Do you know what that is?
Sure. Yes, I
Discovery
do.
Zone. That
California,
closed down.
yeah.
That was my favorite place, dude. I was so pissed as a kid when they closed it down because it was better than Chuck E. Cheese in every facet.
Many birthdays were there.
Yeah, and Discovery Zone was way better. Everyone kept saying Chuck E. Cheese is the best. I'd say all of you guys are wrong. All of you guys are dumb because Discovery Zone does it better. But for some reason, Chuck E. Cheese just had better marketing, and it pissed me off as a kid. Even as a kid, I look at Chuck E. Cheese and I said, "You're disgusting. I despise you." And so, when Discovery Zone disappeared, I found something else. I'm sad that I cherish the times that I have Discovery Zone, but I will satisfy with some of Chuck E. Cheese, and I will find some maybe carnival, some fare that gave me the itch and satisfaction. It may not ever be Discovery Zone ever again, but gosh darn, at least I filled the void of what I was looking for, and I didn't have to sit there and struggle with the balancing of this. Did it do this? And like, please spare me, put me out of my misery, and steer me. What I want most as a content creator, as a streamer, at any of us, is just to be steered a direction, because then I can finally know. It's like an abusive relationship, right?
Absolutely.
I don't know if you ever been in a relationship. I'm not saying an abusive one. You've ever been in a relationship where you're like, I love you so much, and I've had this relationship in high school. And
Sure.
my fiance, obviously, I'm with my current fiance, so don't worry, I'm not like in a horrible state in terms
Congratulations
of-
on that, by the way.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But let's say there's that relationship. You're like, I love you so much. You're so freaking hot. But Jesus Christ, you have a horrible personality when it comes to X, Y, and Z.
Oh, man.
And you ask yourself, I would love to just fall out of love with you so that I could just move on and find somebody that may be better to me, that just doesn't just do what you do to me. We've all been there. We've all had that situation. You can't say that you haven't. And if you
No.
haven't, it's because you're too young. And I question why you're watching Battlefield, because Battlefield is an M-rated game. So what are you doing here if you haven't had that relationship? But that's a different conversation. But that's a situation I'm in. And I will be 100% honest about that, because people question people like Enders or
Mhm.
myself, but probably why we do this. And like, well, if the game is so bad, why don't you go to somewhere else? Because I'm in an abusive relationship personally right now with Battlefield. I know where it can go. It's amazing. And until something tells me to move on, I'm going to stick with it. And right now they're trying to fix it, and they keep stringing me along. And, I'm like, oh, I think it's going to be better. And I'll just
Yeah.
constantly be in an endless cycle where they beat me and hurt me, and I'll be
Oh,
sad and depressed.
Jesus.
And then
But,
one
like,
day maybe they'll treat me right. I don't know.
Like I was trying to ask, what is the other restaurant right now? What is the other game that people can go back to that gives you the similar
I'm glad
experience?
you asked this, because
I
there
thought
is
you were
none.
gonna say that. Thank you. Oh my god. I
And
was
this
waiting
is
for you to
why
say that.
Battlefield has the best opportunity to be, because remember I said there is no game that delivers what Battlefield does, but I promise you, the minute that Battlefield fails, another one always rises. This is why we have history class and we look
hope
at
so.
Rome. When Rome falls, there is always another that takes its place. It may be better, it may be worse, but if Battlefield were to die, then yeah, I guess I'll go play Modern Warfare. Or maybe I'll go play Apex. Maybe Apex will put in,
Yeah.
like, I'll go play Titanfall, dude. I don't know. Maybe we'll go find our rekindled spirit with Titanfall. I don't really know. I'll go find something else. But please,
we will.
push
Yeah.
me in a direction. And I encourage DICE. And this is just DICE, just like, DICE, you have the best possible game right now, and you have an untapped market. Fortnite is too busy with the BR. Apex got the BR. PUBG, everyone's got the BR. World of Warcraft has its own game. Call of Duty
World
doesn't
War
even
III.
know what it. Modern Warfare doesn't even know what it wants to be. It's trying to be Battlefield, but trust me, if Modern Warfare decides to come after your house, they may actually do it.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know.
I think they tried. They made an attempt. I didn't really buy it. It's just a big
Yeah, and then World War
domination,
I love
really.
how Dr.
Yeah, World War III.
Osted said this. World War III. I said this when it came out. I said, all of you guys suck. And they said, why? Because you're putting Modern Warfare or World War III on its pedestal, and it's impossible for them to balance and fix the game the way you want it. You have to
And they
give
just
them the time of
started.
day.
They just
Yeah.
started.
And before they even started to put anything out, you're like, this is the Battlefield killer. And we know how difficult it is to balance a game like this. So, like, why would you do that to them? it's like if you were in an abusive relationship or in a relationship. I'll remove abusive. Let's say you were in a relationship and the next person you came and say they made the best home cooked meals a man could ask for, and the other person was like, I don't know how to cook. But they're like great in every other asset, but they don't know how to cook and they burn everything. And you come into a relationship like, I hate you. You're like, why? Because you can't cook. You don't satisfy my tummy. I don't know. What it's just an example, It's like, well, that sucks. Now you put them on a pedestal and you ruined them. You ruined it. You killed it. You ruined it. We as a community, we ruined World War III.
Yep, we
Before it
did.
even have a chance.
A lot of people gave it a chance, but then they ran into those issues again.
And then the people come and they're like, yeah, this is horrible. It's nowhere near Battlefield, but at least in Battlefield I get stability. Well, Jesus Christ, they don't have any money. Maybe if you gave them the time of day, maybe they could have done it. Like, yeah, it's a good game now, but look what happened.
There's no one playing it though.
There's nobody playing it. You screwed them over. They never had a chance. So maybe that one chick who could have been a potential wife or husband, I don't know, whatever you're into, it doesn't really matter. Then let's say you had that opportunity and they went to cooking classes. They're like, I'm back. And you're like, well, I moved on. I found something else. I'm sorry. It's like, well, we screwed up. We screwed up, man.
I can kind of see that in many of the people I used to follow for Battlefield 1. A lot of content creators, they moved on. And I was like, how did you do it? Like, I know you come back every once in a while, but I'm struggling, and a lot of the people I know, a lot of the friends I made here on Twitch and stream as well, Battlefield consistently, have been going like, man, I don't like this direction they're going. I don't want to play this game anymore. Like, I need to go find something else. And I have stated that many times on my streams. I need another Battlefield. God, and look what I did. I just made up shit in my head for Modern Warfare.
But if you switch games, you're going to lose your player base.
Right? Oh, I see what you're saying.
That's why people don't leave. You've already built a player base. The bigger names moved on because they can officially play something else they don't want. Everyone else in between is
you mean the audience? Your audience that you built up.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. That's
and of course,
the way
as
it goes.
a person, you don't want to switch to something else because you don't want your time.
You invested so much time and effort.
I've already been streaming Battlefield for 3 years straight. Do I want to reset at this point? Heck no.
Nobody
Thank
does.
God I don't like hate the game enough to where I wake up in the morning and not want to play it. But
right,
like I know the reality. I put 3 years into this, and if I switch games, then my audience is gonna plummet by like 1/10, or like not 1/10, but I'm gonna get 1/10 of what my audience was, and I don't want to do that. Nobody realistically wants to do that, and that's why people will. Yeah, it's tough out there. You don't want your time to feel like it was for nothing. And
right.
The only thing that's going to happen is that we'll find the alternative. We'll find the viewers will go something else. But the viewers aren't leaving. People still watch Battlefield. People will still be here.
Yep.
Because Battlefield does have its niche, and it's going to be here forever until DICE officially kills the game themselves.
I hope that's not the direction they're going. Some people think they are, especially with this new TTK update. They're like, that's it. Game's dead, ladies and gentlemen. It's time to pack it up. Time to hang it up. Like,
it won't kill the game.
I don't think it'll kill the game. I think they're actually trying to, answer these criticisms, but they still need to work on this communication, man. It is quite killing me right now. And a CTE would help, yes, but that's something we don't have right now, and just not gonna happen. So we need to somehow cope with this, and somehow it might be good, it might not be good. So it's something to talk about, and I'm glad Dazs that you came by and talked with us about all these different subjects with Battlefield, Apex,
of course,
all that stuff. I appreciate that a lot. I've learned a lot too. Where think about the fundamentals here. Think about a straight direction you want your game to be. A balance between realism and what makes a game fun. I mean, these developers need to realize these things.
Yeah, because it's not shilling when you're trying to. Because like the best way to shill right now would actually be bashing it. If we sat here and just like screamed at the game.
Easy,
That would be the
easy.
best. That would be the best way to get views if we just constantly screamed it like, what the son of a? I can't believe, yo, the TTK, everyone's screwed. We're all gonna die. We're
It would-
dead. And then
It would be funniest. It would be the funniest show I probably have ever had. It would
Yeah.
be like, wait, what the fuck is Daz doing right now? Like, what is Julian doing? It's like, oh god, everyone get your pitchforks out. Let's fucking go.
All right, everybody, we're gonna go to Stockholm and we're gonna show up with not TTK shirts, not my TTK.
I
And we're
swear
gonna hand them
people
out.
thought about that. They've thought about doing that for sure.
Probably.
I mean, just look at Reddit. Holy moly. The
Reddit is a scary place. Now
it's
Reddit
very,
is just
yes.
scary. That's all it is. It's just it's a place you don't go. It's like being caught in the back alley.
Yeah, I went here to check out the community broadcast, but everything else, I mean, it's just it's memes. They're just memes, a lot of them. I missed, there's some good, like, epic flight or something weird, like people doing like these gameplay. Like, look at that. Like, that's cool, right? And DICE added that sandbox back into these new maps. That's great. But then it's just, oh god, negativity. Oh man. And I thought they had something good going.
What's going to
for
end
a
up
couple
happening?
weeks.
This is what's going to end up happening because it happened in Battlefield 1. Everyone hated Battlefield 1 and was raging about it. At one point, people were like, "Oh, I like Battlefield 4 way better."
Oh, the
And
whole
then,
lifespan of BF1, yes.
And then now Battlefield 5 came out. Everyone was like, Battlefield 1's the best game ever. So what's going to happen with Battlefield 5? We're going to be stuck with Battlefield 5 for like a year and a half or 2 years, right? Something like that.
Yep.
Battlefield 5 is going to become an amazing game at some point. It's just going to happen. You know why?
It's going to be a BF4.
Because if it doesn't, then a bunch of people are going to lose their jobs. And I'm pretty sure those people do not want to lose their jobs.
Oh, no.
So when the next Battlefield comes out, and I hope that they're taking the time seriously, is that when the next Battlefield comes up, you're gonna like, but Battlefield 4 is way better. Oh, Battlefield 5 does it. Excuse me, Battlefield 5 does it better.
It'll be Battlefield 5. Yes.
Battlefield 5 is the best of the franchise. Remember when it started out, it was horrible, but now it's better. And it's funny because people have opinions like Hydra saying like Battlefield 1 is the worst Battlefield in my eyes. But then it's also the one that made the most money. It's the one that casuals all loved. It's the one that people come in my chat and say, go play Battlefield 1 or Battlefield 4. And there's like this. I'm like, I can't put any more time into those games because I hate going back.
Where did you start your Battlefield career?
Battlefield 19 or Battlefield Vietnam.
Vietnam.
When I started playing way back then, but I played it casually. When I started creating content, I said, you know what? I'm going to play a first-person shooter, and I'm going to get good at it. I might have been playing Battlefield for years and played it casually, hopped in and did some random stuff on it. But Battlefield 4 is whenever I was like, I'm going to actually practice and actually try to get good.
Did you play BF2?
Yeah, I played all of them. I might have played it like casually, like maybe once a month, maybe every few weeks there, I was like, I'm going to hop into it this week. Man, it was fun. I played it for a few hours. That was a blast. Like any game you would play. Like think of another alternative Battlefield and you're like, I like that game. I've been playing this game a really long time, or like, I don't know. I can think of like so many games where I go back and think like, oh man, I remember back then, But it's a different perspective when you start to create content on it and you say, I'm not just going to play. I'm going to actually show up and play,
Yeah. A lot of people, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And it kind of seems like every time a new Battlefield game is released, you see that right away. I'm like, oh god, didn't they just fix this like last game? And now it's still broken in this game. Or you get these legacy bugs that people speak of that have been in the Frostbite engine forever. And what Beast is talking about, BF2, I would say is one of my favorite games because I think that's when DICE had the most passion for building that game up. And I mean, it was patches galore. It was a goofy game. It was on a different engine at that time. And what it really shined was the map design and the vehicle gameplay was just so incredible. It got stuck in my mind because I was playing that during college time, right? I was wasting a lot of time when I should have been doing homework. I was playing BF2 and I got hooked through that whole thing, the whole progress, and so on and so forth with all the other games. There was a trend of starting bad, getting good at the very end. And I'm like waiting for that one Battlefield to start good and be good at the end of the game as well. And Hardline tried to do that. It was like the first stable launch ever for the Frostbite engine. That was probably because of all the fixes they had in Battlefield 4 and what Dice LA did to fix that. They just imported it over to Hardline, and it was a good experience. And then it just started lacking in I guess diverse gameplay, and not a lot of content was being dropped at that point. And I think that's where it started to suffer. And then they lost almost 90% of the player base right away. But they kept working on it, right? They had a schedule. They made some great maps. I was like, this is some old school map design here that you guys going on. And it really improved. Oh my god, dude, Hardline was so good. Did you try it at the end of its life cycle?
I thought it was great. It just never.
Yeah.
It just the servers couldn't populate.
Right.
This goes back to the question that Bongo Fury is saying: can an FPS survive without casual players? And can anything survive without casual players? Not even players. Think about sports.
Right.
Can anything survive without just people casually watching? The answer is no. If there's any sport that you do not watch, is because not enough casual or just people are watching. Things that survive is when people have eyes on something and you're involved with stuff, right?
Right.
Outside of that, that's when it dies. So no, can't survive without casual players. Can't. Won't happen. Not enough money.
But from a game design perspective, do you want to focus on your best players and build off of that, or is that a mistake?
This is the mindset that I have for.
I know we discussed this already, but
no, I think I can wrap it up into a neater package. Is that a casual player has dreams of things that they would like to become. When you watch somebody play sports, or when you watch somebody have a big play in a video game, you dream of being like them, right? Which inspires you to continue watching, to continue playing the sport, and continue to be invested. If everything, like Battlefront, the first one, if everything is such a level playing field that there is no competitive, that there's no place to dream, there's nowhere to go, then you don't have a competitive players. You don't have the top end. You don't have aspirations. You don't have a future. And when you don't have a future, people are not invested. People are not watching, and that's when games die. So the answer to that is that essentially, yes, you should cater to the pro players, because they are while they are the minority, they are what people look up to. Think of any sport, any game, anything, even music. Anything you do, it's catered to them, and you dream of one day being something like that. If it was easy and everyone could do it, then it's no longer of value. And there's a great movie called The Prestige. I don't know if you
love
ever
that
seen
movie.
it.
I've seen it.
So,
yes.
So it goes back to the magic trick. If you know how the magic trick works, it loses its magic. It's no longer important. You don't care.
Right.
But what you care about is being dazzled and impressed. That's what all people care about. So if I explained how I was the best sniper in the world, and I give enough feedback and tips, but the real secret or whatever, it can only be achieved by a few, which is why I don't mind sharing the tips, because the real secret is hard work and, practicing, and other people won't practice and won't ever get there, unfortunately, unless they actually put in the time. Then the secret of bringing people back is never broken. So you just have to never divulge your secret. You got to cater to the top end. You have to make things bring people back. Have a reason, have a purpose.
Yeah, excellent point. Well summarized. And I mean, just like you said, just look at sports. Look at professional sports right now. Everyone wants to be the LeBron James, the Michael Jordans, all that kind of stuff, right? And
yeah, but if everyone was a LeBron James and Michael Jordan, then nobody would care about basketball.
Right. No, if everyone's overpowered, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
Here?
It's not fun. Nobody would watch because everyone was dunking constantly, and it's like, well, this is boring. All I'm seeing is people go back and forth.
It's the All-Star game. It's the All-Star game, right?
Yeah, and even it's like this is horrible. I hate watching this. They
need to stop doing those, man. I mean, it brings in, it's good fun. It's good fun, I guess. But if that was the whole league all the time, yeah, it would be, and no one's defending. It's just all offensive stuff. But
yeah,
anyway.
guys are literally the NBA All-Star game I sleep. Yeah, it's just like there's no tension. There's no like, oh, can they make it? Oh, did he take down Michael Jordan, or did he take down LeBron James?
Not reality. But Yeah. All right. Well, good segue. We almost reached the 2 hour mark, and we discussed quite a bit of things here in regards to Battlefield, the new patch coming up, the directionality that DICE needs to go. They need to really start narrowing this down quickly, and if this is what the the new spotting techniques or these new weapon balance patch is what it is, then so be it, right? But we got to go back to the fundamentals and figure this all out. So, well, if they want to kill it, then we'll sure see that soon, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I still have faith that they'll.
yeah.
The reason why I have faith that they're gonna fix this is because they do have passionate people and they don't want it
Yeah.
to die, right? And some people like us, we don't actually really want it to see it die, and at some point, it's just gonna get fixed. It's just the reality, and it's like when is gonna happen? It's gonna happen at some point, and then the only people who are gonna pull the plug are EA and DICE. And one day,
Yep.
if they literally can't fix this, then we'll know. Then we'll finally know. We'll have our answer.
Yeah, I predicted that BF5, with the time that's now given to them, it could be the next BF4 that everyone's talking about, and then history will speak for itself, right? It just like
Pretty much. Yeah.
it'll repeat itself. So
We'll get a
anyway.
whole new Battlefield that'll break everything.
Yeah, can't wait for them to reinvent the wheel in Battlefield 6 with new experiences and well, hopefully not broken promises. God dang, that's no more delays, DICE. God dang it.
Well, I
Okay,
appreciate you having me on. This was a
Yeah.
really good conversation. I think
Yeah,
we hit
thank
on a
you.
lot of big stuff.
thank you for coming on, Dazs.
I thank your audience too for having me,
yeah.
hearing my my rants.
Yeah, it was fun. I'll definitely be highlighting some of this and putting it out there, man. Thank you so much for joining us on the 10th episode of the Battlefield Show. Everyone, stick around here. We're gonna go raid someone in the Battlefield section. But Dazs, where can people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitch. I stream here on Twitch, just Dazs, Dazs, and you can also check out my YouTube at on Sword. Just type in Sword Dazs.
There you go. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me and Dazs on the Battlefield Show. We'll see you tomorrow for another one. Why not, right? We're going to keep doing this for a while. All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Stick around. We're going to go raid someone, okay? All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye, guys.